We're live. Robert J. Conley here. Come on in. Pull up a chair. This video is about the characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses of tactical leaders. And this matters because the success of every organization relies on its tactics. Tactical leaders play a critical role in taking the visions and strategies of top leadership and making them into positive results. So first, a moment for housekeeping. Please hit the subscribe button because you'll know about future videos by doing so. If you benefit from this video, please hit like. Or even if you didn't benefit, but you liked it, hit like. And finally, if you have any questions or comments, please post them. All right. So people often confuse strategy and tactics. And tactics are the observable actions. So, when you see manufacturing taking place, those are tactics. They're the techniques in a dance. They're the methods troops use in battle. Tactics lead to contracts being signed, sales closed. And so strategy is the how we're going to do it. We're going to do it fast, slow. We're going to invent it. We're going to copy it. We're going to make it useful. We're going to make it stronger. We're going to make it cheaper. All that stuff. That's strategy. Tactics take the strategy and develop the particulars of what will actually be done to provide the service, make the product. All right. So what are the characteristics of tactical leaders? I'll just go through some words. Negotiator, excited. Now remember, excited means body in motion, molecules in motion. So tactical leaders like body in motion, but you'll also experience them as having a serenity, a quiet mind. There is a sense of confidence that you will typically experience from a tactical leader. Present to reality, in touch with the tangible world. Tactical leaders are the ultimate team leaders and team players. Very strong commitment to team. Forgot to turn my dinger off. Tactical leaders are daring and spontaneous, loyal, and optimistic. So let's take those words and now let's look at just dive a little deeper into the strengths of tactical leaders. So of the four leadership instincts, tactical leaders are most present to the moment. They're the most in the moment. They're the most aware of their surroundings at all times. They're the most aware of the realities of time. Tactical leaders are master negotiators. Everything's negotiable. There's naturals. Unlike their stabilizers who don't care for it too much, negotiation is fun. It's just part of their package. Tactical leaders are very good at putting out fires. They're masters at untangling confusion. They're good at deciphering between abstract speech and concrete speech and putting into tangible form. Tactical leaders are excellent at responding to crisis. They'll do whatever it takes to solve a problem and to solve it now. They're good at bringing others into the fold. Picture the drill sergeant, or the person who's in charge of bringing a new company there's been a merger and there's a new company. A lot of times the person that's really good at that is going to be the tactician. They can seem callous and hostile, but it's all for the sake of the team. It's like in the drill, I brought up drill sergeants. Drill sergeants, have this reputation for just being these nasty guys, but they're coming from a commitment to preparing people for battle. So that's an extreme example of what the tactical leader looks like. They can appear cold-blooded in ejecting non-team players. And this is fresh in my mind, and I realize it may not be in anybody else's. So hopefully I'll be able to say it cleanly enough. But so there was, in World War II, one of the renowned generals was George Patton. And Great movie in the 70s about him. And so Patton got in trouble in World War II because he slapped a soldier suffering from battle fatigue. And he ejected these kinds of guys, and it didn't matter to him what the cause was. It was that they were not up to being on the team. And so he was known for ruthlessly ejecting anybody who wasn't up to battle. He ejected them from the team. Tactical leaders make natural quarterbacks. So not every tactical leader is going to be a good quarterback, but the top quarterbacks are all of the tactical intellect. And, one of the things is that they're great at seeing options under pressure. They don't fold, and they can find the open man. They can do what it takes to keep the offense going. The cardinal virtue of tacticians is fortitude. And fortitude is the strength of mind to bear pain and adversity for the sake of completing the mission. So that's important. Their ability to bear pain for the sake of the mission. It's not just an unfocused, I love pain, I love adversity. It's for the sake of a greater good. And that is where the real just sheer power of tactical leaders comes in. So what are some of the difficulties and challenges of dealing with tactical leaders? Well, they're probably the least inclined to engage in diplomacy. George Patton, again, was one who basically he did not continue to advance, and he was already a multi-star general, but people saw his limitations in diplomacy. And so his boss, Dwight Eisenhower, his bosses, Dwight Eisenhower and Omar Bradley, basically saw this guy can fight a battle. He is as great a tactician as there is, but that's when the war ends, we're not sure where where we can use him. And as fate would have it, he ended up being killed right at the end of the war in a car accident. Another well-known tactical leader, Lyndon Johnson, not known for his diplomacy, known to be a pretty hard-edged guy, but just brilliant at controlling the Senate and getting the rest of the group to go along with his wishes. So, it's not, even with his hard edge, it's not that they're without feeling. And at times, like their lack of diplomatic capacity will just kind of cause them to not say anything at all, as opposed to saying something critical. They might overuse praise, and this is pretty much linked to the same thing. There's just this awkwardness with subtlety in speech. Tactical leaders aren't generally interested in theoretical discussions, in strategic or diplomatic discussions. And you'll see this is actually a common element between stabilizers and tacticians, is that neither one of them really enjoys theoretical meetings or theoretical discussions. And what you'll find is that the tacticians are so work focused that they'll basically just say, you know what, I'll skip the meeting and I'll continue to work. And then you let me know what work comes out of the meeting and I'll do that work also. But as far as having to sit through the abstract conversations, not really their cup of tea. Another challenge is that since they convey that everything's negotiable, at times they can seem willing to compromise principles to achieve their goals. And a lot of people in Congress are of the tactician mindset. And that's why it is on both sides. This isn't a partisan comment, but you will see both citizens on both parties feel like, wow, that guy just sold his soul for that, or this or that. And that's part of their makeup. I'm not excusing it. I'm just trying to kind of explain it, that they just are so fluid in their negotiations that it can be perceived that that's what's going on. They're not typically good with slowing down and writing, slowing down enough to write and document their actions. This is really a factor more in bureaucracies, and It's also why there's like Pentagon generals and peacetime generals and wartime generals, and wartime generals too busy fighting the battles to write it down. They can be prone to acting before thinking. They can always benefit from strategic and diplomatic colleagues that can offer guidance in that regard. There is an ongoing, even though I shared that thing about the stabilizers and tacticians, neither one of them relishes these meetings about strategy and diplomacy. There is actually an underlying tension that you can almost always find between tacticians and stabilizers. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Your stabilizers want everything standard operating procedure, by the book, follow the rules in accordance to the standards we've established. And if you have someone on the other side who thrives on improvisation and making it work and everything's negotiable, in my experience, when I've worked with groups and those two different instincts come into play, most of the time there's this underlying tension. One of the other challenges that, and this is I wasn't sure if I wanted to share this statement, so I'm going to try to do the best I can to make it useful. Tacticians need to be careful when looking at promotions, and the promoters need to be careful too, because so people will get hired or will be considered for promotion because of their tactical brilliance. And tactical brilliance doesn't necessarily translate into boardroom brilliance. And so the disinterest in strategy and diplomacy, which are more and more important the higher you climb up the ladder, the less suited the tactician will be for those higher jobs. Now, for better or worse, and I'm not saying, oh, never hire a tactician, do this, but there is a caution that needs to be taken. And over and over again, you'll see where like the chief operating officer, who is typically a tactician, gets promoted to CEO, and all of a sudden there is an entire set of instincts that just aren't in her bailiwick, and it suddenly stops working. And so all these things that were just brilliant at this operational level, when more of the diplomatic and strategic thinking is required, they're not there. And so that's just something, whenever you're being promoted for a job, look at what the next thing requires and really drill down and question, okay, is this in my zone? So direct hints for dealing with tactical leaders: you should, first of all, never, ever delay telling them bad news. More than any of the other three styles, tacticians can handle bad news. And tacticians are good at taking bad news and responding with ways to make it better. So if you are a subordinate to a tactical leader, always, always, always tell bad news as soon as you know it. Pass it on. That's true with every style, but some handle it differently. I won't go into how each style typically handles it, but with the tactical leaders, you want to be really super proactive in those kinds of conversations. In your communications, be unambiguous, be literal, be direct in your communications. Don't beat around the bush. Don't initiate conversations about theory, about abstract things. Be calm and logical and present facts. Avoid indulging in introspection about the past or projecting too much about the future. The most productive conversations with tactical leaders will be in the present. Here's what's happening today. How can we make it better? That's the sweet spot right there. So attempt to be as present to the moment as you can. So I'm going to read some quotes from these different tactical leaders that hopefully shine even more understanding on how they think, what their thought process is. So Lyndon Johnson is my first example. He was president of the United States back in the 60s. And his first quote is, "Every man has a right to a Saturday night bath." That has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but I thought it was hilarious, and indicative of the times in which he grew up. He grew up in very poor conditions in West Texas, and anyway, I'll let that one go. All right, so onto the straightforward stuff. Lyndon Johnson: "Yesterday is not ours to recover, but tomorrow is ours to win or lose." So he's in that moment. He's talking about being in that moment. We draw lessons from the past, but we cannot live in it. So don't dwell on that introspection about what coulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda. My last one: "There are no favorites in my office. I treat them all with the same general inconsideration." That is one of the greatest indicators that you've got a tactician on your hands. George Patton, cut from the same cloth. A good plan violently executed right now is far better than a perfect strategy executed next week. In the moment, get it done, act, body in motion. Never tell people how to do things. Tell them what to do, and they will surprise you with their ingenuity. A pint of sweat will save a gallon of blood. So work hard up front and you will be better off. Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Next, Norman Schwarzkopf. It doesn't take a hero to order men into battle. It takes a hero to be one of those men who goes into battle. There's that fortitude coming out. The truth of the matter is that you always know the right thing to do. The hard part is doing it. And then lastly, leadership is a potent combination of strategy and character. But if you must be without one, be without strategy. Right there. So character, he's referring to fortitude. So if you will go into battle with the right men filled with fortitude, you will prevail, is his mindset. And lastly, Clint Eastwood, another tactician. Tomorrow's promised to no one. Let's not go and ruin it by thinking too much. And then lastly, improvise, adapt, and overcome. So you can just see that, they're coming from their true instincts and that tactical mindset. So tips for tacticians: think before you act. Tactics without strategy lead to unnecessary battles. If you don't have a strategy, everything's a fist fight. And so getting us, whether you're getting it from others or come up with your own, having that overarching strategy that guides your tactics is paramount to effectiveness. And if you're in a hierarchy and you're a tactician, make sure you always know what the strategy is, and that you fit your tactics to match with it, to align with the strategy. Take time to consider other people's feelings, and to repeat, to be careful when considering a promotion. Look at it hard. And are you going to be put in a place where your least preferences of abstract thought and visioning are going to be needed more and more, and whether or not that's a good fit? There are many, many, many people who have taken what they thought was a promotion, and especially in the manufacturing businesses and large companies, where they had the frontline excitement, and then all of a sudden they were in the corner office, and was it hard on them? It's brutal. So where are the places that tactical leadership is most needed? Well, the military is a no-brainer. It is always needed, and opportunities are abundant in military. Tactical leadership is needed in sales. And while sales people are not typically categorized or considered leaders, I would submit that being a great salesperson fits my definition of leadership. It's knowing what should be done. It's knowing what the customer should do. Great salesmen know what the customer should do, and great salespeople create the space for the customer to decide. And so I submit that in sales, mo I don't wanna say more than anywhere, but the opportunities the opportunities in sales are limitless, and there's no other area in which you can really be rewarded for your work as, directly as in sales. If you're a high producer, you're gonna make a lot of money. Production lines, always needed need tactical leadership to keep the line moving. Um, Kind of similar to the military and the excitement that's in that are public safety jobs, police, fire, EMT. Obviously, in sports, recreation, any action kind of jobs, tactical leadership will, if you're inclined to be a leader, you will have the leadership opportunities. They're much needed, and you also have the body in motion, the excitement that your metabolism needs. And lastly, but certainly not least, construction, building things, putting it together. And anyone that's ever dealt with a construction company knows that good leadership is almost always sorely needed. All right. So that is what I have on tactical leadership. My next video, I'm going to talk about the critical role that inspirational leadership plays in igniting action in organizations. So until next time, cheers.